bouncy, a little bit wobbly. No, it's not what you're thinking I'm talking about. It's Suzuki's Jimny. It is, shall we say, an interesting vehicle to drive on road. Little 1300 16 valve engine puts out 86 brake horsepower, 110 newton meters of torque. 0 to 60, should you be so inclined, is just over 14 seconds. It takes even longer if you decide to go for the automatic. The Jimny as is hasn't really changed since 1998, and in many ways it hasn't changed for quite a few years prior to that. It is, as you can hear, noisy when you push on with it. It's extremely light to drive, which is one of the reasons why it tends to be so nervous. And the slightly bouncy ride is due to the suspension, but it's the suspension that makes the Jimny nervous on road that makes it so good off-road. They claim you'll get mid to high 30s to the gallon. Well, past experience has taught me that if you can get mid 30s, you're doing quite well. One of the reasons being you will have to work the engine and the 5-speed gearbox if you want to really get it to do anything. They are lively, but you have to push them to get them to be lively. A little bit like some of Suzuki's other vehicles. It's all there, but you've got to go and find it. It's extremely light to drive. Cornering wise, because it sits up, it tends to, the body rolls over on corners. It rolls over to a degree the vehicle isn't going to let go, but you feel like it's going to let go. If you're looking for an all-wheel drive or a 4x4 to use on the road, mainly on the road, there are others out there that will probably suit you a little bit more. But if you intend to off-road, the Jimny is the one to go for. No matter what the obstacle, the Jimny, as a rule, will overcome it. They will go where the big 4x4s will go, and they will go beyond where the big 4x4s will go. There is just something about them. They've been an efficient little 4x4 for many, many years, and from what Suzuki have to say, they'll remain an efficient little 4x4 for many years to come. The reason they don't change them very often, apart from the facelifts that they've had since this model appeared in 1998, is because they actually don't need to change them. The market that they serve appreciates them and likes them for how they are and what they are. They're a vehicle that you will buy because not so much you want one, because you probably need one. They're actually quite good fun to own. The size means they will go virtually anywhere. They, in many ways, defined what the Super Mini was before the Super Mini made an appearance. Everything inside here is easy to see and easy to use, for the simple reason, control-wise, there's next to no controls. The interesting thing is Suzuki, although they claim it will change, still insist on putting the indicator stalk on the right hand side of the column, which means to start with, for the first few days, every time you want to turn, you will deploy the windscreen wipers because they are on the left. The instruments are nice and clear. You've got a big speedo, big ref counter, fuel gauge, temperature gauge. That's all you actually need. 5-speed gearbox manual, as I said, although there is an automatic, which personally I wouldn't bother with, for the simple reason you have to stir them about in manual. The automatic, you will be constantly overriding it. Simple radio, 3 big heater controls, heated rear window, and then you've got the all-wheel drive selection. The bulk of the time this vehicle will run as a rear-wheel drive, which, due to its short wheelbase, is one of the reasons it does tend to feel twitchy, especially on damp roads. From stationary up to 62, you can flick the middle button and that will engage all-wheel drive. To go into low box, you must come to a halt. You must be in four-wheel drive to start with, and then it will go into low box. In low box, virtually nothing is beyond it. Even on the standard road tyres, they are very, very capable off-road. There is something about them. There's an enormous list of negatives for the Jimny, but every list of negatives and everything on that list pales into insignificance once you get it on the country lanes and once you get it off-road. They are still one of the best 4x4s about, and the interesting thing is, though many describe them as an all-wheel drive, Suzuki's Jimny is a proper 4x4. It does everything that the big boys will do, and it'll do a lot more than the big boys will do. From basic showroom trim up to highly modified, for a lot of people these are the 4x4 of choice. And after you've got used to them and their characteristics and their slightly peculiar handling traits, it's probably the only 4x4 you would ever want to own, unless you required something physically larger. At times, the age of the vehicle is given away by its handling, by the now slightly aged engine, although they do tweak it periodically, give it a little bit more horsepower, a little bit more torque. But at the end of the day, it is a 1.3 petrol. Interestingly, in Europe you can get them with a 1.9 turbo diesel, but due to problems with the steering column on the right-hand drives and the fact that as petrols they've sold in vast numbers, Suzuki have never seen the need to transfer or try and modify the right-hand drive so it will take the diesel engine. The interesting thing is now the latest spec Jimny has the power bulge on the bonnet that the diesels have to draw more air into them. The only thing with the Jimny is you've just got to get used to how it does what it does and how you work with it. It's a car that is at times eccentric. What you have to do is learn to work with its eccentricities. If you do that and you need to off-road, and I mean seriously off-road, whether it's for pleasure, for farms or whatever, the Jimny very, very quickly will prove itself as to one of the most capable little vehicles that you will have ever have owned. My advice though is, though there are back seats, drop them flat and regard it as a two-seater. The other thing is, whoever your passenger is, you do need to be on good terms with them, because you will actually get extremely intimate with them inside this slightly confined cabin. But that said, the Jimny is what it is. It is what it's always been, and that is one of the great things about it. Suzuki have always ensured that the Jimny is a no compromise vehicle. It does what it does, how it does it. If you don't like it, go elsewhere. Apart from that, once you've owned one for a few weeks, you'll wonder why you didn't buy one before. They're novel, they're eccentric, but at the end of the day, they are an unbelievably capable little vehicle, providing you need this type of motor. welcome to another edition of Motoring Northwest with me, Mark Stone, Ken the Cam, here on the Huntroyd Estate with the 2014 spec Suzuki Jimny. Suzuki's little Jimny seems to have been with us for years, and to a degree it has. The first one appeared in 1968. It's gone through a whole variety of, shall we say, guises and upgrades, but it inherently has also never changed. The model we have here, the 2014 spec, is virtually unchanged from its first introduction in 1998. The only difference with the 2014 spec is they've upgraded the front, they've given it a bit of a facelift, and they've improved the interior. The other thing we've also got is a power bulge, an engine bulge, a bonnet bulge. Reason being, in mainland Europe, you can get them with a 1.9 diesel in them. Over here in Blighty though, you can either get a 1.3 16 valve petrol engine or a 1.3 16 valve petrol engine. Suzuki very kindly eliminating that age-old problem of deciding what engine you might want beneath the bonnet of your Suzuki Jimny. Now, bear in mind it is Jimny, J-I-M-N-Y. It isn't a spelling mistake on behalf of the Japanese, that's what it says, Jimny. Now, great thing about these, they are incredibly traditional. Longitudinal mountain engine, ladder chassis, wheel at each extremity, fantastic ride height. They will go anywhere. They ain't all that good on road, I'll be quite honest. They bounce about, they jiggle. There's the famous shimmy that this has got, but it's been reduced, which means round about 40-45 the steering wheel starts wobbling a little bit. Don't worry about it, just accelerate through it or lift off. But they have always had this shimmy about the 40-45 mile per hour mark. Apart from that, they are old-fashioned to drive, but it's their old-fashioned characteristics on road that make them so good off-road. Inherently, you've got two boxes. A small one up the front for the engine and the transmission, bigger one at the back for the occupants. Now, the one thing you have to bear in mind with the Jimny is you can carry 4 occupants and a little bit of luggage, or 2 occupants and a passable amount of luggage. So basically, open the rear door and that's it, luggage space wise. But they're so simple to drop. Most people, as I used to do when I actually owned one of these, drop the back seats and regard them as a 2-seater. In that respect, they work extremely well. And thank you very much, Suzuki. It's one of my big gripes and pet hates. A 4x4 with a full spy spare wheel hung on the back door, not stuck underneath or it gets filthy and is hard to get at. A proper location for a 4-wheel drive's spare tyre, full size, hung on the back door, exactly where it should be. Inside the Jimny, it is, shall we say, compact. You have got to be on good terms with your passengers because you at times will get relatively intimate with them. However, the new interior, leather seats, much improved, embroidered with the word Jimny, perchance you've forgotten what it is you're driving. Hard surfaces. Benefit of these is most people who tend to buy these will buy them for a working based reason, which means they're extremely easy to keep clean. Simple dashboard, just 2 clocks, 2 main clocks and 2 small gauges. Everything else is located down the centre. Transfer box, 3 buttons. 2-wheel drive, which you'll be in most of the time, which sends the power to the rear wheels. Centre button, high ratio 4-wheel drive, which you can engage at any speed up to 62. The interesting thing will be, will you have got to 62 by the time you want to do it? And finally, 4-wheel drive low, where you must come to a halt. Little leather steering wheel. Interesting thing with Suzuki, they claim they're going to put him the right way around, but indicator stalk on the right, wipers to the left, which means for the first few days when you're turning right you'll deploy the wipers instead, but it's something you will get used to. The interior it's well made, it's designed to last. If you look in any Jimny, the interiors are still in good condition. They may be dirty, but wipe them down and they're a long livid interior. They live up to the rest of the Jimny. They are an absolutely cracking little motor. I could probably come up with enough reasons to say why you shouldn't buy one, why you should go for one of the alternatives. But after you've owned and driven a Jimny for any length of time, you very, very quickly realise why they are as popular as they are, why they are as sought after as they are second hand, and from basic trim to fully modified off-road, they are absolutely fantastic. So from this edition of Motoring Northwest, down here at the Untried Estate with the latest specification Suzuki Jimny, until next time, safe motoring.